Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. We are your multi-award winning Tottenham Hotspur podcast, and we are back for another daily episode of Tottenham Hotspur and the soap opera and more. If you're with us for the very first time, you can find us on iTunes, we're on Spotify, we're across Spotify. Yes, it is Spotify still. We're across all major audio platforms. We're of course on X, we're on Instagram, we're on Blue Sky and Facebook too. And for many that were worried in the green room there, we've all done a hamstring. We are just warming up. I've got 3 returning regular guests that have been not sidelined, on the touchline, waiting for me to call them back. And I've got to tell you, we're at a point now where we are, I think, finding it very hard to get these guests tolerable for an hour of talking Tottenham. What are we putting them through? I'm joined by the wonderful King of X, Billie T, is back in the house for more. Bill, how are you? Hamstring, all good?
Yeah, all good, mate, all good. My laptop's done its hamstring, so I could disappear at any time. And I'd just like to take this opportunity to wish everyone a happy year of the snake. And sometimes the jokes write themselves, so no comment.
Bless your heart. Billie T, always a man you can rely on at times like these. And more than ever right now, the Billie T hotline is open. I can't give that one out because Bill's phone won't stop ringing. And that's got to be turned off during the hours, definitely, of 8:30 till 3:30, 4 p.m. Bill, I've got to be careful with those I'll give there.
Yeah, definitely, mate, definitely.
Thank you, mate, as always. Wonderful Billie T. Back also on the show. Probably the lowest I've seen this man. I've known him for 7, 8 years. Well, give me a little bit of a smile now. I feel like maybe forced. I've not paid him to smile, just to be very, very clear. George Achillea is back in the house. George, I've fought with you for the mute button as well here. How are you?
No, I don't want to speak today. I'm good, man. I'm good. I say good to be back, yeah. It's not like we're short of any talking points today. Again, with Spurs. But no, it's always a pleasure being on the show talking to you.
Bless you.
So, yeah,
bless you. I tell you what, I mean, every day at the moment, like you say, there's always something, isn't there? You just think, will you ever get one day off? You just don't with this football club. It is constant, absolute constant. One man who I love having on this show, we've built a bond definitely over the last, God, it feels like 5, 6, 7 years. It's only been, I think, 6 months. It's a blossoming friendship, one that is growing from strength to strength. Not sure about his friendship for Ange. We'll come on to that definitely later in the show. But we've got the wonderful Jonny Hamme back on. Johnny, I love that mic, can I just say? I mean, every time I see Johnny now with that mic, and he's got a mic entitled there of his own name. God, I feel like...
Well, listen, that was... I got to tell you, I'm not that vain. My boys got it for me, and it would be amiss of me if I didn't use it, and they'll certainly be giving me grief if I didn't. Listen, just for the people who say to me, I must be some kind of curse, I haven't been on this show once. I don't think when we've had a victory. I don't think we've had... just throw me a bone. Come on.
Neither Ricky this season either.
Yeah, no, what? I forgot what a win looks like. I forgot even Bill says there. I've generally forgot what a win looks like, John. Don't take it personally.
No, I'm not taking it. Listen, we've all got Spursitis. It's incurable, but we have to get on with our life and hope that one day, we get a victory and we can all be happy again as a community. Very doubtful at the moment.
Top man. I mean, what I will just say is that I think definitely in the last 24, 48 hours, it does feel like the community is coming together. And most certainly, I think everybody is embracing of one thing that we can all be unified on is that it feels like there is a real now feeling that there needs to be a change at the top. And I will just say on that point, I feel there is that kind of growing feeling now. And I know I mentioned this on the show now. God, it feels like a long time in the life of Tottenham. Forgive me. I think on Sunday I did say that, we have to come to a point where there needs to be unity in the fan base and we all come together. And I can just say, look, from my end, I think talks are aflow with regards to trying to continue development in that. And I suppose I hope you don't mind, Bill, if I bring you into that conversation. I think we've got to say change for Tottenham in terms of what they are trying to do for avid fans that feel there needs to be a change in ownership, a different direction. I think, a lot of media now are picking up on the definitely feeling amongst general match-going Spurs fans that we are really disheartened at the moment. We are, I think, fair to say, heartbroken when we see what is happening to our football club right now. And as I talk to can I just say season ticket holders, regular goers, both home and away to Tottenham, this is very, very tough times at the moment. I know, listen, we come on here and we try to, at times, bring pressure, bring fun, laugh and joke. But look, I'll be honest with you, it's not that fun at the moment. It's not fun at the moment with regards to where Tottenham are right now. And it just feels at a point now where fans are going to have to come together, unify, and try and, as one, get us out of where we are right now. Bill, I'll just come to you there in terms of changed for Tottenham and where we are? I know you've been very patient, to understand in terms of give us certain updates in the past. What do you understand to be updates in terms of kind of that collective of where we're going at the moment?
Yeah, listen. Firstly, I just want to shout out the work that they did on at the weekend. I think the banner went down really, really well. It's got a lot of media coverage. That was all completely self-funded, and I think it's started a lot of conversations. We want to build momentum on this now, and I implore anyone listening who's interested in bringing about change to this football club and making a difference to get behind the group. Follow them on Twitter. There's going to be some more information coming soon. Keep an eye on the Man United game. That's going to be one that I know that they're going to make plans for. But I just implore anyone, the best way you can support at the moment is by following them on X. Get involved in the conversations. All we really want to do is just unite the fan base and ask for change, because I don't think there's a single fan out there at the moment that doesn't believe that we need change at Tottenham the way that it's going. And all the main priorities at the moment is unifying the fan base, getting the opinions heard, and making a difference. And I implore anyone that's listening right now to get behind the group, because this is a big opportunity. We've never had this kind of eyes on us as a media. Every single day, I don't know if you guys have been watching, every day this week on Sky Sports, Talk Sport, the conversation's all been about Levy. This is a massive opportunity, and we're determined not to waste it. So I implore anyone, get behind the group, because together we hope that we can make change.
But I hope what I'm saying is just sticking you for a second. I've got to know you over the last, even though we've been on X probably longer than me, 8, 9, 10 years. I like to think like we've kind of struck up a real bond and a friendship in the last kind of definitely year and a half or so since having you on the show. And you're a lovely, lovely guy. And I think many look to you. Kind of your amazing anecdotes and your play on words, but also at the same time, you've got such a genuine love and affection for the football club that I know for you, you're a really positive person when it comes to Tottenham in terms of always looking, for more of the positive rather than negative. How hard is this for you right now, Bill, when you're looking at what's going on at the football club, a club that you love, like we all love right now, that is so close to your heart, that you spend so much time, money with, sacrifice with friends and family? Can you kind of correlate what's going on right now with this football club and where we are?
It's heartbreaking, mate. It's literally heartbreaking. I'm probably a similar age to you. I'm in my 30s. This is the worst it's been in my lifetime. I know a lot of the older fans will have probably experienced slightly worse. But we're in the new stadium now, man. This is supposed to be the new era for Tottenham. We're supposed to be leaving that relegation as the thing of the past. But imagine Man City fans now experiencing relegation. That's the kind of thing that we were promised. And I'm heartbroken at the moment. I genuinely am. The connection that we had if you think back a couple of years ago, the Pochettino area, the connection that we had at the club was so raw. And, every single day you look forward to being a Tottenham fan and going to that stadium and watching us win. That has completely dissipated now. And I'm really afraid that the club that I grew up loving is going to die soon. It's not being treated like a football club at the moment. And to answer your question, I'm heartbroken about it. And that's why we all want change.
George, just bringing you in, I know for you, look, you go home and away. And likewise, you give up so much time with family, with friends for this football club that is so dear and close to your heart. How do you even correlate, George, what you're seeing at the moment in terms of not just even on the pitch, off the pitch? We're in a transfer window. We're 28, 29 days in for our listeners on audio. You've got a manager, whatever you think about the manager, who has called for help both before the transfer window, during it. He said we're playing with fire. He said that Dominic Solanke needs help since that point. We've lost Dominic Solanke for a further 6 weeks. Can you just understand how we've got to where we've got to and just where we are right now? Because it just feels, when I talk to Tottenham fans out there, I'm lucky enough, I'm stopped so much to people expressing their love for the show, that this is their kind of escapism, their therapy at the moment for them. How do you feel, George, right now, being a fan, home and away, as a Tottenham fan? What can you feel at the moment as a fan?
To be honest, I imagine pretty much every Spurs fan, especially ones that goes to the games all the time, it really does affect your mood for the whole weekend, and sometimes the week, really, depending on what's really happened. And I think at the moment, it just seems to be just something constantly negative, whether it's to do with the results, whether it's something that's happening off the pitch, whether it's the fact that the lack of backing for the manager, or whether he is the right manager or isn't. It just seems to be one thing after the other. And for me personally, I now, especially recently, every game I'm just coming out at the end of it, and I'm just I'm kind of just drawing a blank expression to it all. I'm kind of just you kind of just feel like you can't see a positive coming soon enough, which is just really depressing, to be honest with you. Like Bill was sort of touching on, we were promised these big things with the new stadium coming in, and I think, like myself personally, I think I kind of got drawn into it all at the beginning of it. Of course, it's a shiny new stadium, best in the world. We've got this, we've got that, and the other. You kind of fall into the traps of, it's going to take time. This to sort of build up the revenue or whatever it may be. But I think the reason why everyone's sort of uniting more now is that we're kind of at that point where we're supposed to be seeing the rewards from all of that. Like they're getting the extended revenue every year from all the shows and everything. The revenue is the best it's ever been. Wages are as low as they've ever, and it's actually worse than what came out in the reports, because that was last year's, let alone all the experienced players we let go in the summer and youth that we've signed on lower wage packets. So to me, it feels like we're in a position where we now actively can do more for the team, but then it just seems to be one thing after the other. Now they want to reduce the wage bill because it makes investment more profitable for them, because the value of their shares are better if the wages are lower for the club. So I don't know. It just seems to be you might make one thing right and then two things wrong, and you sort of going backwards again. So yeah, it's kind of hard to find some positives at the moment, which is tough because you know me for a long time.
I do know. I've been blessed to know you for 7-8 years, and it is, like I say, I think the lowest I've ever seen you. You know, having to ask you to come and talk about Tottenham, I feel like
it just feels like there's no excuses anymore. There's no excuses for needing to create a good football team now, and we're kind of just not seeing it.
Yeah, I mean, Johnny, look, I think for someone that does go, I said, home and away in that stadium. How would you describe, Johnny, you feel the mood as a fan? And I ask you this in the most politest way. Someone that is a little bit older, that's seen a lot for Tottenham down the years. Not I'm trying to age you at all. But when you see what's going on inside that stadium, outside that stadium at the moment, there's so much anger, there's so much frustration. And the worst thing about it all, it doesn't feel, Johnny, like they care. And that's the only way I can say. It just doesn't feel that there's any care there towards the supporters who give up so much of their hard-earned money to travel home, away, abroad for some coming over to see this great football club. And it is still a great football club. Try and push on. But I use that word custodians. I can't, as I said on Sunday show, I can't even call these custodians anymore. I don't recognise the people that are running this. I don't know who they are. I don't know what they are. They're not Tottenham. They aren't Tottenham. They're not Tottenham. They are not the people that my dad took me when I was like 5, 6, 7 years old. Walked me into White Hart Lane, and I got that feeling of addiction, and then you're in and you can't get out. I mean, how would you describe, Johnny, your feelings as a fan at the moment?
Well, first of all, big up Jay for Change for Tottenham, and also to you, Ricky, for giving the voice to the movement. And as Billy said, I've never known the movement to have so much momentum as it's got now, and rightly so. Something Billy said resonates with me. It's sad. I remember that season, that last season at White Hart Lane, unbeaten, the euphoria of where we were going, the dreams we all had, the story that we were sold, that we were going to the promised land. We were going to move to this beautiful, shiny stadium, and all our dreams were going to come true. And we believed it because we wanted to believe it. And we went, with such excitement with Pochettino's team that anything can be possible. But ENIC and Levy have managed to kill those dreams slowly but surely, year by year. I feel like, we've regressed slowly, and then, obviously Harry leaving was a big kick in the teeth. The comment, we got our Tottenham back, that was just for the crowd. That was for the crowd. It was an empty comment. And what I would say is, I think there's two different stories going on here, and I think they need to be separated. One is ENIC and the terrible 24 years that we've had under their stewardship, and Ange Postecoglou. They're two different things. One's about a manager and his results. I know some of what Levy does affects Ange. I totally accept that. Yeah. But they should be judged separately. And, one's about 24 years of neglect and one's about 18, 19 months of management. And I think they should be treated as separate issues. And I find it hard. I go to these games, and a bit like George says, in my heart, I wanted to believe that Spurs could go and beat Leicester. But in my head, I said before the game, I think we'll start strong and we'll finish weak, and God help us. And it came to pass. But there was a sort of an acceptance that it was going to happen. Once that second goal went in, I don't think anyone truly believed that we were going to score. I don't know why, but there seemed to be an acceptance around us. And, you know, I was the only person in my section singing Levy out. I was in Yeast Premium, but by the time I'd finished, others were joining in. Some were hiding behind their program as I was saying it. But, you know, I do think now that he needs to listen to what we're saying. But the problem is, this guy cannot read the room ever. You know, whether it's furlough, whether it's getting rid of concessions, raising prices. Look, we are sold champagne, caviar, and steak, but what we're getting fed is something entirely different. And you know, fans aren't expecting 150 million pound signings. Well, what we're asking for is ambition, taking risks, signing players. We don't need to go through the players. We all know the type of players that we'd like to sign.
Yeah.
And, you know, if he threw us a bone, throw us a statue to Bill Nicholson, build us a museum, give us some of our soul, some of our club back. Because right now it feels like it's been cleansed. It's just a building that's been cleansed of our history. And I just want, you know, if I take my grandkids or my son, like you take your kids down there, Dad, what's that statue there? That's Bill Nicholson's son, right? Who's that? He was the greatest manager in Spurs history. When I had to go to Arsenal to see for the Crouchy interview, I'm standing outside and it was really pissing me off. I'm seeing the Thierry Henry statue. I'm seeing the Arsene Wenger statue, and I'm thinking, where are ours? Where's the homage? This guy has denied us what we all deserve, and he won't even throw us a bone right now. And he has to wake up. And if he doesn't wake up and smell the coffee, then hopefully change for Tottenham when all the people are supported. They need supporting, and hopefully we can force change for a better club and the club that we love and get our club back.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think many would, once again, I've got to say, lots of people are in agreement here, Johnny, that, you know, when people go to that stadium now, and I say this in the most, I don't really care the way I say it now, it doesn't feel like you're going to a football stadium anymore. Right. It feels like you're going to an entertainment complex that is almost for different sports. As you know, I mean, we see when you drive up now, for a lot of the listeners out and viewers that obviously watch the show abroad, when you drive past Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, you know, you would be fooled for thinking it could be an NFL stadium. You would be fooled to be thinking it's the home to Formula One. And, you know, it does feel like, you know, throughout this window, I think we've actually signed up more concerts and bands than we have players. You know, I've just seen it's funny, we've done Rolling Stones last week, but yeah, we are 28 days into a transfer window, 29 for listeners and audio. We had to sign an outfield player. This is a manager. Whatever you think about Ange Postecoglou, and you're right there, Johnny, to say you have to divide both, because there's two different stems of where frustration is at the moment. The stem's definitely 100% towards the ownership. And as you know, there's definitely a split amongst the fan base as to whether Ange Postecoglou is the right man to be leading the ship right for now. And I think the problem is a lot of people are torn, because when you are coming on to this topic of Ange Postecoglou, I just will tell everyone where we are at the moment, just be very, very clear on Ange Postecoglou's future. We understand that this has been from really since earlier in the week, that there is no change in regards to Ange's future, and that Tottenham are going to stand by their man for what we're led to believe at least is going to be the next two fixtures to come. That's obviously against Hoffenheim. It was not against Hoffenheim, I can tell you, definitely not Hoffenheim. But against Elfsborg, and it will be against Brentford away. Don't take us back inside, for God's sake. Well, they did win that game. It will be for Elfsborg, and it will be, of course, for Brentford away. But it does feel that, you know, what the common rhetoric has been, Bill, is that they're going to backhand Postecoglou. This has been the message being fed to the media, you're aware. They're going to backhand Postecoglou, but what have they backed him with? They've not given him any more players. And to come to the point of this show, just to be clear on the rundown here, we're going to discuss, obviously, the fact that James Maddison is the latest Tottenham player to be missing out due to injury. Van der Ven is back in training. But, Bill, I think we're at a point now, just to be very, very clear, we've got 8 senior players just over the age of 18 now available since the drop of Maddison in this last 24 hours. I mean, no matter what you think about Ange Postecoglou, how is a manager meant to work under these conditions. And to also add on to that, I am aware out there, acutely aware, there are many people that do look at Ange Postecoglou for why we have got the amount of injuries that we've got. But at the same time, whatever you think about that, he's not been afforded the support that any manager should be, given the nature of our injuries.
Yeah, and I think so for any football club worth its salt, there were two paths in January. The first path was either to sack Ange, which I think has got plenty of good reason behind it at the moment in our run of form, or the path which personally that I would support is back this manager with new players that are coming in to support get some bodies in, quality signings that are really going to help him. Of course, Tottenham are not a football club worth their salt, and they did neither of those things. They haven't backed him and they haven't sacked him. So we're just left in this weird middle ground where no one is winning in this. It's an absolute disgrace. We're on the 28th of January. I was listening to an old press conference the other day where Andrew was talking about how he's already had conversations with Langer about who they want to sign and drawing up a list of targets. That was in November. Yep. That press conference was in November. It's now the 28th of January. We have no outfield signings. This is just an absolute. Whatever your thoughts on Ange, the way that this is going about is an absolute disgrace, and there is no justifiable reason for it. It's just terrible management. But I will end on a positive note. Is that a friend of the show told us a story today that her CEO visited the training ground today as part of a business meeting, sort of business venture. And apparently they all met Ange, and he was really lovely. And Ange asked all of them if they wanted to join in. So that's where we're at the moment. That's where we're at.
That was, no, lovely story there. Friend of the show. I will just say on that point. I mean, G, bringing you in, look, I think, you've been very, very, steady in your approach that Ange Postecoglou has been dealt quite a severe bad hand in terms of this window alone and before that. I just wondered, do you have a feeling now, whatever the feelings around Ange Postecoglou, that the working conditions that he's trying to navigate in are simply impossible to work under? And I made this point that even if Tottenham are going to look for a change of manager at this stage, who would be crazy enough if Tottenham were looking for an interim to walk into this? That's the first thing. And number two, even if you were to make a change there, as Bill kind of alluded to, if you're going to bring in Matty Wells or you're going to bring in Ryan Mason, who would be for a third time, is there any guarantee, G, there'd be an uplift of results when you're looking at our injury list and you're looking at the fact of what the manager's got to work with and the fact we're nearly 29 days into a transfer window and not a single outfield player has been signed to support the manager, despite constant calls for that support, and even going as far to say Tottenham Hotspur, which he said on Friday in his embargo presser, are playing with fire.
Yeah, I mean, there's literally no other way of putting it than just gross negligence, because, like you said, it doesn't matter whether you want Ange in, whether you don't. I personally am still with Ange, only because even though, for me personally, even though the results were a bit inconsistent at the start of the season, I did see a better Spurs in terms of the actual performances on the pitch. We came out of all of those games at the beginning of the season, whether it was Leicester, Newcastle, so on and so forth. We didn't get the points there, but we all said we battered these teams. We should have come away with more. And I feel like the injuries started so early on, and with a thin squad, we didn't really truly get to see enough time to see if we have improved on from last season, in my opinion. I think he's just been dealt a terrible hand. And the fact they're not backing him is a disgrace, because even if you don't want him as the manager, the whole point of bringing Ange in is we wanted to get back to this attacking ethos at Spurs. Like you say, we've got our Tottenham back, so to speak. Now, when you're thinking that way, you don't just think that whatever manager you're going to have next is just going to be there forever. I think Brighton's probably a brilliant example of this, where 100%. They've built the whole backroom staff and the whole team so well to the point of they know exactly how they want to play non-stop, whether that's De Zerbi, whether that's Potter, whether that's their current manager, so I've forgotten his name. But it's the same sort of style of football, which means the players can adapt to that new manager really easily. So if you're thinking, all right, maybe the club don't think Ange is for the future, not giving him the players now is still the wrong way to go about it, because even if you do sack him in a week's time, 2 weeks' time, 3 months' time, the new manager that you want that needs to fit that ethos can use those players as well. It doesn't have to be, we've bought this player for Ange, therefore it's a waste of money because they're not going to be good for the next manager. If that would be the case, if you then start moving towards an Allegri or someone, or going back to Conte ways and going ultra defensive because they're not the great fit. So I think they've just gone about this thing all wrong, and it does feel like they're just waiting for the cup competitions to see what the results are, and if in my opinion, I think if we're out of that, he's gone. But that still shouldn't change the fact that we should have brought the players in, because, like I just said, the next manager is going to need them, whether it's the interim or a permanent manager. And I just think it's just terrible, terrible planning by the club.
I have to say, George, that I have definitely on Last Word On Spurs, made it clear in my position with regards to Ange that I felt, for me, I haven't seen enough progression, even in relation to when the full squad was fit, to give me the confidence that we would get results absolutely long term. But when I look at the situation right now, which is, again, I think it's crazy for me to say, that I'm not actually sure what we benefit from, even if we sack him after we go out the cups, because we're in a similar situation where we're still going to pick up results in the league. I think many that are just, blindly, thinking that the league isn't a problem. I tell you, it is a problem, because I know many fans out there will look at Tottenham right now in the league and that they're 8 points currently off the bottom. I know people are suggesting that Wolves and Ipswich, it looks like Southampton are pretty much gone, are not going to make that gap up. But the reality is, I think Ipswich have been playing fairly well and have not really been getting the results to really correlate with the points total they've got. Wolves, I think, as a club, they have changed their manager. There's been certain games you've seen a little bit of impetus from them. Leicester, they've just obviously recently beat us. You wonder if they're going to try and now strike up a run under Ruud Van Nistelrooy. And then Everton under David Moyes. He's gone in there. He's got 2 wins out of 3, one of them against us. Everton next go and play actually against Leicester, where if Everton go and beat Leicester and Tottenham fail to beat Brentford, Everton go above Tottenham. And then we drop to 16th in the league. And I think that's why I'm at a point now where I really think go back to Bill's point. We're in a rock and a hard place right now that I don't see any real credible manager looking to join Tottenham in the situation they're in with the injuries they've got. And I don't even know if I'm confident really that the likes of Matty Wells, Ryan Mason as a partnership or as one individual with the same recruitment staff or same technical staff around them are going to get results. If I come over to you on this point, Johnny, I think everyone knows your feeling around Ange Postecoglou, that I think it's fair to say you've said for a long time you've not seen enough to warrant really giving him any longer at the club. But just to go broader on this point, Johnny, what is the best solution for the football club right now when you are looking at the results? You are looking at, can you even call it a squad? You're looking at, again, the likes of 8 players over the age of 18 to work with. What do you feel the club should do, if there's a should do option right now, or would have to do, if I was to put that to you? What is the right option at the moment?
Look, if we want to solve the mystery here, Ryan Mason isn't it? I'd rather have Perry Mason. I think the thing is here. Look, George hit the nail on the head before about Brighton. They had a guy there called Paul Barber, who used to be at Spurs, who ran this club really well.
And can I just say one more of that, Johnny? Just because doesn't he talk so well as well? Every time that man comes onto TalkSport, comes onto Sky, I sit there and think, how in the world did we ever decide this guy should leave the club? How do we not fight for now to keep him?
Because he was treated badly. And then once he left, without going into too much detail, Daniel tried to get him back, right? But when you look at how he runs that club, there's a plan of succession for everything and everybody, including him. No player is sold unless there's another player that's going to take his place. Every player that's looked at, every step is, their personality, where they fit into the team. They know who they're looking at. They're scouting managers, they're scouting players, and it's a very, very, very well-run club. Then we look at the man that Levy brought in, Scott Munn. I'm going to come in and I'm going to restructure everything. I'm going to rip up the book. Well, hang on a minute. We had Fabio in, who brought in Gabbanini, who brought in Steinson, brought in Spalding, right? To restructure the academy, bring in and recruit top 15 to 19-year-olds, which is what he was doing, right? Bring in players for tomorrow, bring in players for today. We saw how he operated, okay? Whether it be Kulu and Bentancur, I could go on. What we've got now is Scott Munn, who has forced out Gabby, who thought that he was going to be director of football and liaise with Fabio. He's now brought in Johan Lange, who was demoted at Villa. Let's be serious, right? He was demoted. I haven't seen progression. This is just another one of Levy's appointments that, in my opinion, has gone wrong, right? Munn, Lange have not done the right stuff. I mean, I'm not going to go into the stuff that I'm privy to, but I would just say that, you know, it hasn't worked, and that's shown in this transfer window. And I just think that, you know, the medical guy who left after 20 years, he's worked under 11.
Jeff Scott.
Jeff Scott, yeah, he's worked under 11 very vocal managers and managed to sit there and last. He's now gone because he wasn't happy with the way things were being done. Let's leave it at that. And where are we now? We're now on LinkedIn advertising for people with any medical experience. No medical experience necessary. If you're listening to the pod now and you've read a couple of medical books, get on down to Tottenham because you could get yourself a job. It really is terrible. The whole structure of the club now, it's just a laughing stock. And I wouldn't be surprised to see another Paddy Power advert coming out about our injuries. That'll probably be the next one. I mean, in fairness to Ange, I will say that the offside, we play a high line, okay? And back in the day, not that long ago, when the ball came over the top and they were offside, the linesman's flag came straight up. And that was the end of the play. Now, what you've got is our players run on the high line, constantly having to run back from that high line to defend the ball, which is offside, over and over and over again. The recovery runs are not doing anyone a favour. And it certainly seems to us that our hamstrings are going, and this isn't helping. I just think that Ange hasn't helped himself with some of the comments at the beginning with the rotation, which has come back to bite him. And it's kind of ironic that the players he said weren't really going to play much, which would be Archie Gray, Bergvall, Spence, have really probably been the shining light to the team in the last 2 or 3 months. And I will say this again: as much as I don't think Ange is the man long term, I think he's the man before the man. I hope he proves us wrong, and I hope he takes us to that final. And I would be happy to sit here and eat all my words and say, Ange is the Messiah, and he is the one to take us forward.
I will just say on that point, you know, on the show, I'm very lucky and blessed to have a lot of contributors that come on here that don't hold an agenda against a manager and would love it to be turned around for it to work and to eat humble pie and to see Spurs successful. Because I think that's the one common goal that the people that come onto this show, the contributors that get to go so much of their time, everybody's got one common thing. We all want Tottenham to win. We all want Tottenham to be successful. Look, people see it in terms of different viewpoints and different shortcuts of getting there. But believe me, the one common goal of every person that comes onto Last Word On Spurs, we all want Tottenham to be successful. We're going to squeeze in our first break of the show for our listeners on audio. We have got over 6,000 of you that are watching the show live. Can I just say, as always, thanks so much for all the incredible support there for us all here on Last Word On Spurs. I'm joined by the superb Jonny Hamme, the brilliant George Achillea, and look, the ever great Billie T. And I just want to again repeat what Bill said at the start of the show for those that are unaware. Look, Bill did mention about Change for Tottenham. Please, we encourage you to follow, to check out the latest updates on Change for Tottenham, or Change for Spurs, should I say. Change for Spurs. There'll be more updates coming your way in due course. But I think it's fair to say that there is movement and developments ongoing with regards to many wanting to know how this unified fan base is going to try and get this football club back up and running. It won't be easy. I think no one admits it will be easy. It may take longer than what we all would want it to, but you've got to start from somewhere. And even if it's baby steps, we're starting from somewhere where we all want the same thing. Look, we're going to discuss where we are in terms of the injury situation at the moment, because this is changing on a real constant daily basis right now. So just to bring you up the latest news, we understand that Micky van der Ven, well, no doubt about it, we understand, we've seen him. Micky van der Ven has returned to first team training for Tottenham. in what will be a relief to many of us. They obviously put out there on the Spurs official that Micky is now back in contention. We understand he will hopefully be in Thursday's squad for that game against Elfsborg, which is still a critical game for Tottenham in the Europa League, in which Tottenham will need, you feel, to get points to automatically qualify inside that top 8 clutch of clubs that will then automatically go into the next phase of the Europa League. And the thing Tottenham want to avoid, of course, is the playoffs, because that will mean 2 extra games. And with our schedule at the moment, I don't think we can afford for that. Bill's laughing there. The bad news is that we understand James Maddison is going to be out for what looks like to be a minimum of 2 to 3 weeks after sustaining an injury. Now, Ange Postecoglou did confirm that James Maddison was sore, and that was a result of why he missed the Leicester game. Johnny's smiling right there. I think, look, just to get into this point, Johnny is smiling there because there does have a feeling, Johnny, to be fair, and look, we can only go off kind of our feeling as fans and what we've seen and what we are witnessing in body language and also what we're seeing in terms of games, that when James has played recently, and I know, again, he's played in games, it's not been a happy James Maddison. I think he took a fairly, in my opinion, leadership role in that win over Hoffenheim a couple of weeks ago. He was a shining light in that game. But the overriding feeling with James is that despite, I think, having quite strong stats over the course of the season, I think the James Maddison that I think many fans maybe saw at Leicester hasn't really transpired to the one we want to see at Tottenham. In terms of what I mean by that is that when the going gets tough, we want to see James in there taking games by the scruff of the neck and turning them around. And it just feels that Ange, in the most recent couple of months, hasn't allowed James to either finish a game when Spurs are needing a goal to win it, or they're chasing an equaliser. Is that purely down to managing his minutes, which, again, he has made a point of, Johnny? Or do you think there is something more there that is alluding to maybe why James isn't around at the moment for featuring? Because, I mean, again, I don't want to... I have to make it clear, I'm not alleging that he's not injured. I'm just asking you a question here as to whether there's something more sinister going behind the scenes with regards to Maddison and whether you feel he's actually generally happy at the football club.
I think, listen, the Leicester fans named in James the third Maddison, a third brilliant, a third injured, and a third missing. I expect every season for him to get injured. You know, he's quite fragile as a player. I don't think there's anything sinister. Look, there's been lots of things with James Maddison this season. You know, whether it's, you know, going off in a half against West Ham, not celebrating the second half goals when you're, you know, the backup captain, is poor form. Some would say going to the darts was poor form. I think it's fine, but bad timing or whatever. Look, there's been lots of incidences. He's been subbed probably more than you can understand when we're needing him. But that said, you know, for as little as he's played, his goal and assist is the best at the club. You know, where would we be without him right now? So I don't know. There's something not quite right there. I think it's a mix of injury, confrontation over his game time, and, you know, just not being fit. I do think, though, I do wonder when he wasn't playing, and he was pretty miffed that he was being taken off. What's he doing in his spare time when Ange isn't about? Is he sitting in the changing room, sat on his own, not saying anything? Or is he voicing his concern to other players? Nobody knows. Nobody knows that. And by the way, just to add that, as far as we know, that Papa Sarr could have a knock for 2 or 3 weeks. And Richie's got a groin strain. So I'm not quite sure where we're going to be. Whether are we still 8 with those 3?
We're 8 at the moment, but that could slowly change to 10. Sorry, I'm putting us up. It could decrease to 6. It could decrease to 6 depending on Richarlison's groin and Sarr's injury. I must just say one thing to be very, very clear. Just in regards to James Maddison, it has been confirmed that he has suffered an issue with his calf. The point I'm merely suggesting, actually, George, coming over to you, is that whether we feel there's anything more in regards to when James is fit and is available as to why we've not seen that James Maddison on a more consistent basis that many looked at Leicester and thought he'd be great in a Tottenham shirt. Because I will make that point again. His stats, James, have been fairly good. But it's in those games where, as you know, George, when things are going against us, you need a leader out there. James hasn't been in those games. I wonder, is it a combination of position? But then again, he has got decent stats for the season. Can you put your finger mark on as to why we're not seeing the best James Maddison consistently in a Tottenham shirt? Can I just add, when fit?
I think the issue is a bit 50-50 because Maddison, for that first part of last season, looked unbeatable. He looked unreal. Let's be honest. He's probably one of our best players. But then, as you know, Johnny was just saying there, is if he then is going to spend pretty much 2/3 of the rest of the season after that either not being available or kind of getting back up to scratch to his football, how effective is that? And I do think it's mostly down to Ange managing his minutes, and we need players to last the season, and clearly he doesn't, right? So I do think it is leaning more towards that way. But then equally for Maddison himself, if the players aren't getting a consistent run of games all the time, it's hard to sort of build that momentum and get going. And I think, to be honest with you, him just like sort of being upset about taking off this, that, and the other. I think, look, footballers at this elite level, I don't think anyone, I mean, to be fair, not even at elite level, like Sunday League, no one wants to be taken off or whatever. Everyone wants to play football at the end of the day. So I don't think that's abnormal the way it sort of reacted. But I think, yeah, it's a difficult one for him because I just don't think he stays fit enough throughout the season. But he's then also not able to then build that consistency and that momentum of playing week in, week out. So it is a bit of a tough one to balance for me personally. But then again, I think it's got to come back to, do we have adequate cover for him when we do want to rotate him out? And I just don't think we have that. Because obviously Decky's been great when coming into the middle.
Yep.
But a lot of the times he's deployed them at the same time, or you're kind of, you're not necessarily directly replacing Maddison with Kulusevski, if that makes sense. So yeah, I don't know. I just don't think he's able to keep that momentum going with the lack of game time.
Yeah, it's a tricky one there. You mentioned a point over to you, Bill. And Bill, I know we've switched you on device. If you are able to change into landscape, that would be amazing. If you can't, not a problem at all. I think with Maddison, as I think George has made the point there, I think Ange has found it quite difficult in relation to maybe finding a way to play both Kulusevski and Maddison together. And also, in addition to that, I think maybe he was even surprised by how much Decky has shone in that central role, despite can I just say, Kulu saying for, I think, more than a year and a half, that's always been his favourite position. You know, we've put him there now and we're seeing the benefits of that. But do you think Bill will ever see the best of James Maddison in a football shirt at Tottenham? And do you think that's down to the system? Is it down to his fitness in general? What can you put it down to for you, Bill?
I really hope so, mate, because for my money, like when we played our best this season, James Maddison's been playing, and James Maddison's been playing well. If you look at most of our biggest wins of the season, James Maddison's had a really good game in those games, and he's usually contributed with a goal and assist. And I think he can do things for our team that we don't have enough players that can do them. You know, put that pass in, have that shot from the edge of the box. So I really hope so. And I think in our very best performances this season, we played Kulusevski and Maddison together. And I think if you want to win a game of football against a big team, you need players like that on the pitch. So I really hope we can. And actually, in the last few games that we played, Kulusevski's played on the right anyway. So I definitely think there's room for both, mate. Because I think when James Maddison plays well, Tottenham play well.
I do agree with that 100%. And just on the fact of players and where we are right now, we are hearing reports from a friend of the show, can I just say, and a really good friend of mine, John Wenham, who runs the White Rose, that we are hearing that Spurs forward Jan Min-hyuk could potentially be departing the club before the end of this transfer window and could end up as a QPR player. I just wondered, Jay, coming over to you, how much that news would surprise you, given, as I mentioned, of the club's shortages at the moment, not only in terms of player availability, but also in terms of forwards, and the fact we're yet to see Yang have a minute of any competitive football right now. Does that feel a bit ludicrous or balmy that we would sanction him going out on loan when, at the moment, Richarlison has got a groin strain, which we're waiting a further update on? Dominic Solanke is out for what looks to be 4 to 6 weeks. and he's our only other forward as things stands that's yet to get a minute. I mean, I feel crazy talking and actually asking you a question. I feel like I'm balmy even asking you this, how we've been in a position to consider this. But can you see any logic to this at the moment, Johnny? Or is it a case the club are going to sign 2 strikers in these next
I
3-4
just don't know
days?
I just don't know what the club are doing. I mean, look, who can forget when Yang ended up having to call a taxi for Emerson Royal when he left him for dust in that pre-season game, and we were all excited. Wow, look at this kid, low centre of gravity, quick feet. Guy, are we to assume that he couldn't come on and give us a minute? We couldn't see a minute of him at Tamworth, or we couldn't see 5 minutes of him in some other game. It just seems there's a lot of baffling decisions. I've got to tell you, Ricky, you know, for me, Will Lancashire, you know,
that's not what I can't understand either. I can't
listen, they were trying to get Will Lancashire out on loan. Okay. I don't get it. You know, they throw him into the cauldron that is Galatasaray, a 19-year-old kid, one of the hardest games you'll ever play in. What an atmosphere. And yet he can't play against Tamworth, the mighty Tamworth. It's too much for him. I really do believe that he should have come on Saturday. I've seen him play. Yeah, of course, he's not the finished article, but, you know, he's a powerful lad. He looks like you know, a strong sort of butterfly swimmer. He's got that sort of build. And I don't get it. And this is another one. You know, when I look at the players we got out on loan, Manor Solomon, Yang is going to go out on loan. Jamie Donnelly ripping it up at the moment, you know, for Orient. I'm not saying they're going to rip it up for Spurs, but when we're so short of numbers, does this make sense? Unless, as you say, we got someone coming in. But can I remind you about the fact that we got rid of, whatever you think of him, Davinson Sanchez after the window closed. And we thought, let's get rid of Davinson Sanchez and leave us with no backup. It keeps happening. It keeps happening and happening and happening. And is it mismanagement yet again? If he goes out on loan, Yang, why can't he go out on the final dot of that transfer window? The last deal to be done, if we don't sign a striker. Don't let him go out on loan and then not sign anyone. Or, you know, let Will Lancashire go and Richie breaks down and Solanke breaks down and we're having to play with Sonny up front as a 9 again.
I can tell you, just as you're talking here, we understand also that Watford are now showing a huge interest in Min-hyuk, as well as QPR. So that's one to keep an eye on between now and the end of this transfer window. And that's been put out there by Steve Han, who's been on the show before. Credible writer. He has obviously done a lot of pieces out there in terms of for Korean media. And I think I say it's a fairly solid source that there's obviously no smoke without fire. I mean, George will come round to on that point. Whilst we're sitting at the moment and we've got some doubts over Richarlison's fitness, Dominic Solanke's out for 4 to 6 weeks. Will Lancashire, with all due respect, doesn't really seem to be featuring a lot. He was given a couple of minutes in the Leicester game when we are chasing 2 goals to win a football match. And on top of that, we're hearing news now that Min-hyuk could potentially be leaving on loan. Bloody hell, this club better have a plan in these next 2, 3, 4 days, right, as to what's going to be transpiring for our attackers. You know, we understand the club are looking for an attacker, we're told, but if you're going to let him go as well, and Lancashire isn't going to be getting minutes, I mean, we're getting at least 2 forwards, aren't we? Is that being unfair? I don't want to even say anymore, George. I've come to a point where, I'm asking guests, which I feel is just incredibly stupid questions at the moment.
It's absolutely imperative that we need to get that. And yeah, I think 2 is needed now, like you say, because I think initially towards the start of the window when Andrew was calling for help and, you know, he wanted a so-called versatile forward that could play left wing, striker, right wing, whatever. Basically a Cunha, someone that could do it all. I think the problem is now we definitely need a right winger that is able to take on defenders effectively because we simply don't have that at the club at the moment. And now we're definitely going to need a striker because I think as soon as, I mean, Solanke needed their help regardless, but as soon as we found out that Solanke was out for 6 weeks, I don't think any Spurs fan would have thought that Richarlison was going to be able to last those 6 weeks until he got back. And even then, you're still going to need to have another option when he does come back to rotate with. Otherwise, it might become a recurring injury. So 100%, we definitely now need a striker and potentially a wing or at least like a versatile forward to go to go alongside that. And we saw the news earlier that Matthias Tell is 100% leaving Bayern in January. And I know the competition for him is going to be absolutely mental. Chelsea were after him earlier in the season and whatnot. But this is where I feel like we have to put the pressure on us. And I guess it's like the change for Tottenham, really. If it's not going to be them leaving, it's got to be acting like a proper football club. And that is certainly a player who, he fits the bill for them. He's young, but also has the quality and does well and covers pretty much every position in the front three that we could really do with right now. And I feel like if we're not even trying for players like that, then we're just going to be left so short again.
Can I say, George, at that point, and let you come back to this before I go to Bill? The problem is how many of those players with that ability look at Tottenham right now in their position in the league and want to come. I will just say on this point, George, as well.
Yeah, sorry,
I have heard a lot, and let you come back on this point. I have heard behind the scenes, and I don't think there's any harm in bringing it on here, that Tottenham have actually tried to bring quite a lot of players to the club, and because of their league position and what is going on right now, it is making it harder to attract players to want to join us. I mean, is that going to be, do you feel, a big problem in these next 3, 4, 5 days, that for the will of want to bring in high caliber quality players, if that's what we're targeting? I mean, you might argue, it's been far from that, but how hard is it going to be to try and get those players to join when inevitably they're joining us at a time where this is probably the lowest at any point a Tottenham side has ever been in the Premier League era, position-wise in the table? I know there's cup games as well in there, but certain players also might be cup-tied.
No, definitely. I think, look, it is always going to be a stumbling block because no player realistically is going to look at a team in 15th and think, why would I go there? But that's where we've kind of put ourselves in this position. But you have to then overpay for players. And that's realistically how you're going to convince them to come to a club like us. If we're in a poor situation, you need to, look, listen, the money talks. If you're you need to overpay to and provide the wages for players to come in. But then you can also go in with saying we're in 3 competitions. We're 90 minutes away from getting to a final. We've got potentially a chance to knock out another big Premier League team in the FA Cup. Europa League, whether it looks like it at the moment or not, we were favourites at the start of the season. And for me personally, I feel like Lazio is sort of the main stumbling block in that, if we can sort of get the team together. And you're effectively guaranteeing minutes. We're not necessarily going to sign players permanently in January. But if you're telling me, say to Tell, for example, okay, you're still telling me to be a Bayern player, we'll get you on loan, you're going to be the man leading the line for us. You have the chance to win potentially 3 trophies or help our position, and you still get to go back to Bayern Munich later on. It is a stopgap, but we need those sort of players right now, especially because we've left it so late in the window. And it's not like we haven't done it before. We managed to convince Dragoshin to join us instead of Bayern. We've managed to convince Bergvall to come to us instead of Barcelona. And look at how they're flying right now and using the youth. So it's not like it's impossible. It's just whether, you're going to put money where your mouth is and convince the players to come. Yeah,
I mean, we're sitting here at a moment, Bill, coming over to you, where we know a lot what people feel about this board at the moment. And I feel like it's a stupid question to ask you, to be honest, whether this club are going to overspend in these next 3-4 days to give the manager the support that he needs and allow him to try and stay above ocean level rather than sink. I mean, he used that term, as you know, Bill, I said earlier in the show. He said Tottenham were playing with fire. And since that point, Tottenham have now lost another Premier League game. I know many will throw out there, Bill, that damage limitation has already been done to our league at the moment. Do you feel in these next 3-4 days there's going to be any support of any level of high quality player to come in and give fans and that squad of players a lift at the moment?
No, I don't, mate, to be honest with you. And going back to what you were just talking about with George, I think, if you don't forget, Chelsea were in 15th last season and they didn't have any trouble signing players in the summer, or even during the January window. They signed an untold amount of players. And I think it's a fallacy that players, care deeply about the league position, as maybe the club will tell you. But players care about money. They just care about their wages. If you're going to pay players' wages, they're going to come. If you're going to talk to a player and say, yeah, we're 15th right now, but if you come to us, we're going to be challenging for the league next season. We're going to spend this, this, and this, which is no doubt what Chelsea do. They sell them a dream. They're going to spend hundreds of millions, which is what they do, by the way. It doesn't necessarily work, but I can guarantee you they sell them a good story and pay them good wages. The players are going to come. And I have no faith whatsoever. I mean, this is the week that the Deloitte paper was published, which shows our wage to turnover ratio at 42%, which is by far the lowest out of the big 6. And the club have systematically lowered the wage bill. So I have absolutely no faith whatsoever, mate. No faith at all.
I just wonder, I mean, Johnny, look, you're very well connected behind the scenes. I don't mind me saying that. I mean, do you feel the club will have to try and do an element of loan obligations, loan with options in these next couple of days? I mean, I do know that many are looking at the fact I think Fabio Paratigi's ban ends in the near future, not right now. Obviously, I know he's working as a consultant for the football club, although it does feel that Johan Lang's at the wheel, which feels apparent given where we are in his transfer window and the fact that Ange does keep referring to the fact that he has got contact with Johan and that he's working incredibly hard to bring players to the football club. And here we are at day 29 for our listeners and audio, and still none have come through the door. What do you think we can hope for, Johnny, in the final remaining days of this transfer window, if anything?
Well, if Johan's at the wheel, he must be in a bloody ditch right now, and no one's found out where he is because he's been missing. He's been missing. No one's seen him since Tamworth. Look, Bill's right. You know, what's the saying? Build it and they will come. You know, the old saying, build the stadium. Pay them and they will come. Footballers are mercenaries. They care about the buck. That's it. Bottom line. If you're paying someone who's offered you 100 grand a week and Levy turns around and says, I'm going to pay you 140 grand a week, he's coming to you. I don't care, right? That's the facts. And the fact that Levy has cut the wage bill by £30 million last summer to make investment look more attractive and to bunch the numbers up for inward investment, that's all that's about. This has all been geared to attract investment and get more money. This isn't about getting players in. So
How can we attract people with 15th in the bloody league? I mean, who's going to look at this and think? And look at the stadium. You've got chaos going on in the stadium. Banners are up everywhere.
Yeah, no, listen, I get
it. And we're trying to attract people.
I get it. We're a joke. I get it. We're a joke, but I'm with Billy on this. I think, you know, if you pay, you get over the BS, right? Because you sell the dream. You sell the dream. Whether you're buying a house. Oh, look, the house looking a bit shitty at the moment. Don't worry. Don't worry. The time we put a lick of paint on it, we whack the pool in, it's going to be amazing, right?
But
and we're going to pay you this.
I feel like we're starting. Sorry, James. I feel like we're starting on ground level here.
But you sell the dream. You sell tomorrow's dream and you pay them the money. But this club is about cutting bills, saving money, and, you know, charging us more money. Look, you know, if he doesn't sign a player, and let's be honest, I'd rather we didn't sign anybody if he's going to end up with some Carlos Kickable that no one's bloody ever heard of, that's going to take another 6 months to even get onto the pitch. What's the bloody point? What I thought Yang was coming here to learn. He's coming here early to learn how to play, to get acclimatized. You know, throw him in. Throw him in. What difference does it make? How do we know? I mean, maybe he's wrong about him. He was wrong about Spence. He was wrong about Bergvall, and he was wrong about Gray. So let's see. And I just think it's possible. There's so many players out there. I mean, I could sit here and give you a list as long as my arm of players that, you know, I felt a year ago that we could have bought, whether it be Hincapié, Hanko. There's a whole load. There's a whole load
of interest. How much is that Carlos Kickable worth? What can we get him in for? Is he available? Or
Carlos Kickable, he's probably out of our. That's one of Alan Sugar's favourite lines. You know,
he's injured. He's injured at the moment. Anyway,
he's injured as well. Yeah,
he's listen, he can fill the bench on Saturday. Bring him in, Bill.
Yeah, listen, we're interested in Tyler Dibling purely because he has an injury, and if you haven't got an injury, don't worry. Come to Tottenham, and we can guarantee you'll pick one up soon enough. Like Dom Solanke.
I think we want to test the new medical department, right? Is that what it is? We want to see if they're actually any good or not.
No, I don't know. Listen, George, if you go on,
Jay.
I'm just saying. You know, how embarrassing is it to be looking on LinkedIn and find the Spurs are looking for a medical department, and like three-quarters of our team is on the floor, and our main guy who's been there for 20 years. Where's our plan of succession that George and I were talking about before? Okay, so he's left. So what are you doing about it? Okay, we are now in January and you're still looking. It's embarrassing.
Listen,
reactive, not proactive. That's the problem.
Yeah, I read today that our Fabio Paratici's ban ends in July. Get him back, man. He would not be doing this in January. He'd have. This is why I got the headphones on. Tribute to him. You know, he'd be on the phone right now. He'd have 5 players in. He would. They might be illegal. Might be end up in prison, but they'd be in. Get him back in July. Get him back.
I saw Lang's watching. Langer watching the game. That's not unheard of.
Yeah,
he's there on the phone 24/7, and he's just
get him back. Honestly, I'd get him back in July. Let's get him back.
Fabio was on the bench, man. I thought Fabio was the manager at some times when he was there under Conte, screaming at the players. Yeah, that's a guy you want. Passion.
That's where we're going wrong. Stick him in charge at the end of the season. Give him all a lift. I just think on that point now, I get to a point where if a player's coming to Tottenham for a medical, they might as well have a CT scan as well. What in your right mind would make you want to come and join this club? Have a brain test. I tell you, have a brain test. I've got to say, anyone who do sign in January, whatever you think about them now, you know, I would say credit to that footballer. They really, really think they can help us at the moment. It's so tough right now, really, really tough. And I think as a player now, you've got to weigh up what you're going to get out of this opportunity. I think you've got to be looking at players that maybe are on fringes of squads, haven't really had an opportunity, are going to come here and make a difference. I think, Johnny, you made a really important point that you said, and I know, again, you're all for wanting to bring players into the club, but you also said there for you, what you're going to be really careful about now is, given our precarious league position, you do bring people in for the right reason, because to be fair, we have had a history in the past of signing players for the wrong reason. We've actually seen the impact that's had at the football club for the wrong reasons if you don't do your due diligence on profile of players, a la the likes of Tungi Ndombele, as you remember.
Dan
Juma. I mean, look, it just they have to be the right signings, but you do worry for every minute closer that we get to the window that there must feel even more of a panic, Jay, to get players in, because, as I've mentioned, we're at a point now where you've got 8 senior players over the age of 18 fit. Can I just say on that point, you mentioned it, we do understand the football club are looking at Tyler Dibbling, and just to qualify that point that Billy said as well, he is currently injured at the moment. So that would be more of a player for the summer rather than the now. And on top of that, they're looking at Angel Gomez, which again would be a free transfer for the summer. But what about now? It just feels with Tottenham, we are always planning for the future. But what about the now? And this is the big, big problem. And I think even with someone like Evan Ferguson, I know he's been linked around, I think, again, Brighton are going to want that player to have regular first-team football. And despite the concerns over Richarlison right now, and maybe Solanke, you know, as present, when those players do come back fit, I mean, you asked me how long they're going to last, but I presume Brighton will want to get Ferguson football right now. Tottenham would offer him that in that moment, but whether he'll get that between now and the end of the season, I think is probably why Brighton would be reluctant to allow him to join us right now. And I think this is the quandary Tottenham have got when you're looking at our options going into the final days of the window. I mean, George, how convinced are you we're going to bring at least one player in? How convinced are you on that point, George?
I mean, I'm convinced that we'll bring a
we're being
player
told
in.
We're being told they are going to bring at least a player in. This is what we're being told.
This is what I mean. And then it just all comes down to the level of that player that's going to come in. And I just, look, like you said, we're on the 28th of Jan right now. I can't, at this very moment, I can't see it being anything else but a deadline day sort of panic. So it feels like, you know, on Football Manager, if you're just going on the list of like who's available for loan, I feel like they're going to do that in the morning of the 31st or 1st, whenever the actual deadline is, and just just choose a player from that list. So not optimistic in terms of the level, but it's not like there aren't any options. Like you said, those 2 that are available in the summer, like you said, why can't you accelerate that now? Even someone that wasn't even on the top of my list, but a Jonathan David from Lille as well. Again, all right, he's in the Champions League and again, available for free in the summer, but it's what we were talking about before. If you want to get these players in to help the team out, you're then going to have to overpay, especially in our position. And I think that's, again, another player that probably could help us a lot right now. There's quite a few of them out there. And I get that they supposedly operate in the shadows, but it feels almost a bit too quiet.
I read today that they're working on Gomez and Dibbling because they don't want a slow start to the summer window. It's like, bro, you're in a transfer window right now. You're literally in one, and you're working on the summer. It's crazy.
forward planning, Billy. Forward planning. You're complaining about it, but George is right. You know,
Billy's killing me. Billy's killing me.
I think George is right there because Jonathan David and Gomez, two very good players that would definitely help, and as would Tyler Dibling. But what we need
right now, we're 15th in the Premier League.
We need it now. Look, the thing is,
I can't believe what I'm saying. I can't believe what I'm saying. Yeah,
but Levy can afford to buy a player because he looks to amortize it over the 5 years anyway, the 5 years of his contract. So it's all about the wage. It's about the wage, guys. If it's 50 million, he ain't paying 50 million up front. He's paying 50 million over the 5 years, maybe a little bit more up front to begin with. Yeah. And then the rest is down to wages. It's wages. Pay the wages. Get the players in. Let's stop buying, players for tomorrow. Great, but we need players for now.
But that's what actually baffles me about the whole Gomez and even David, say he was a target, which apparently he has been in the past. They're going to demand much higher wages when they're free and also going to need a massive signing on bonus.
Absolutely.
So why aren't they trying now? Because it will actually work out cheaper in the long run. So,
I think they'd be two excellent signings, by the way. But, we need to worry about right now. And, it's great. There'll be two great players to bring in summer, but come on. This is now we're talking about. We don't need to worry about summer. We need to worry about surviving.
Even if they didn't work out for whatever reason, we're talking about Canada's star forward. And Gomez, for me, when Lee Carson was in charge of England, I actually thought looked really good. I'm very surprised by, given how small he is, how well he actually did in that midfield. So it's not like you're not going to then be able to sell them on if it didn't work out.
Yeah.
So, it's just all baffling.
Well, look, we all know the players are brought here because they've got a sell-on fee. This is the whole point about it. I mean, I've got to say, I think I said this point actually, a lot with regards to the players we've got at the moment. The likes of Bergvall and Gray, whilst, as a fan base, we're feeling it's killing us at the moment. Those two boys are going to come out of this, and Spence as well, and be so much better for this experience. I'm not sure whether we'll be as fans, but certainly for what they're doing, Bill, they're going to. Their growth during this will be great for next season. Whether we'll be on the other side of it, I don't know the way we're feeling at the moment.
Yeah, and you know what, mate? I love signing players like Gray and Bergvall, exciting youngsters. What fan doesn't? But you have to supplement it with experienced, quality players. 100%. These guys should not be in a position where they're playing week in, week out in the Premier League. They should be coming on in games and looking, wow, Archie Gray looks really good. Not that Archie Gray has been flogged to death and now he can't last 90 minutes because he's played every game of the season. I love, Dibling again would be a great signing as long as we sign someone else who can make an immediate impact. And that's the bit that we struggle with. We sign these players with low wages, high contracts, multiple years, as Johnny was saying, because again, it keeps that thing down, it keeps the percentage down. But none of these players can have we need players that have an immediate impact on the first team. Solanke showed what can happen when you spend the money on a decent player. He's been an excellent player for us. Yep. Those signings are great, but you need to supplement them with quality as well. Otherwise, it's just pointless.
100%. And
I'm worried that on transfer deadline day they're going to put a long blonde wig on a guy and say we've just signed Eric von Dyer from Germany as our new centre back. And he's going to play the rest of the season.
I think.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what's. I've become so cynical. I'm not sure that Micky van der Ven ran out. Right, the picture, and then 2 minutes later, he sat down on a bench and he's back lying down on a bed. That's how cynical I've become. That what can you believe is the truth?
Mate, Dyer got an assist for Kane at the weekend, just saying, I'll bring him back.
It's interesting. I mean, I think where we are right now, I think it's fairly evident that the sounds mad me saying this, that the 8 senior players over the age of 18 need a lift. I feel like I'm talking about a Sunday League team here. This is meant to be a Premier League side. Bill, what has this come to on there? Can you believe?
So when you're in the group chat on a Sunday League team and you say, "Boys, who can play today?" and about 3 people reply because they've had a heavy night. That's the state that we're in at the moment. We need some subs. We need some runners, man. You have to go to the lower leagues to get some. I've never known anything like this. 8 adult players. 8 adult players that are available. That's just unheard of.
I don't.
I mean, you know that I revel in how ridiculous we are as a football club, but even for me, this is too far.
I mean, even though I think even at the moment, I look at the Tottenham account at times and think, are they just running the Billie T parody line? Is this like the?
I mean, when they tweeted today, "Happy Year of the Snake, everyone." By the way, I just thought I can't even comment on that. It's just.
The cheek of it.
Shame it's not the year of the rat. That would be a point, very appropriate man at the top.
Do you get the vibe, guys? I mean, look, we're going to close with Johnny's going to give us a bit of vibe of Elfsborg. He's done a lot of homework, so I want to close with Johnny on this point. But do you feel, George, that the players that are available, the 8, I can't believe I'm saying this, the 8 senior players that I worry about could drop. I mean, how can I drop to 6 if we lose Richarlison and Sarr? What am I? I mean, what's coming out of my mouth? What is coming out of my mouth? George, how much do the current players need a lift? I need a rest, which they won't get, of course, because they've got to go. They've got to go again on Thursday. They've got to go again on Sunday. It's relentless, isn't it? It's relentless for these players that are still out there giving what they can at this moment in time, which is why I've been very loathed, as you've probably seen in this episode of Last Word On Spurs, to criticise the players when there's so little of them able to play.
Yeah, look, like you said, I actually, you can't really criticise them because they've just been ran into the ground, and you do see them give it what they've got left in the tank. Like, look at what happened to Bergvall and Gray at the end of the Hoffenheim game last week, just literally falling to their knee, and then they're playing 90 minutes again a few days later, and it's incredible the position we're in. And yeah, I can't fault them for their efforts at all. Again, that's where I can alleviate some of the blame off of Ange, because I feel like really and truly he just doesn't have any options available to him. But again, I mean, we could go on forever about the fact that he could have rotated them earlier in the season, whatnot. We'll go back around again. But yeah, look, they desperately need the rest. They're not going to get it, so it's going to be probably another 90 minutes for most of them. And again, we've kind of just put ourselves in this position because when we looked at the fixtures at the start of the season, I think most of us were probably thinking by this point we should have wrapped up that top 8. We shouldn't have had to have worried about the Hoffenheim and the Elfsborg game.
It's mad.
But unfortunately, we can't afford to have the 2 extra games in the playoffs. So
and I think
we need to perform.
On that point as well, I think if we do progress in the top 8, there's a 3-week period in February where we play 1 game a week. And my God, we need that right now. We need that so badly.
And then just have the shortest month of the year. Brilliant.
Yeah, it's such an important game. It's such an important game, this one. We can't. Those two games would kill us. They would absolutely kill us.
When's the international break? Is that March?
End of March, I think.
My wife knows when it is. I tell you, she won't let me on here for a week.
No, I was just trying to challenge the international break so I can get away from it all.
I was going to say she want to take me to Cancun. She might drop me out Calcutta at the moment, the way things are playing out so far this window. Bill, just on this point, before I do feel like going to Calcutta, which feels like a better place to right there than talk about Tottenham. How do you feel about this game on Thursday against Elfsborg? Do you think, given our form at the moment, and given also the fact of the mood around the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, how much do you feel that's going to be impacting the players, that feeling, that vibe around the board at the moment, going into that stadium, Thursday being really a must-win game? How much do you feel, or do you worry that the atmosphere could play an actual detrimental effect on the players? And that's not me sitting here saying that we should not be vocalising our disparity at the board, but what I'm saying is, for the players that are out there, do you feel this is having a negative effect in any way at all?
I think the fans will get behind the team on Thursday like they have all season. I think obviously there have been some chance in the Leicester game, and that was at 0-0 as well, by the way. But I think the fans are at breaking point. But if you think about the biggest games in the season, the Liverpool game, the Man City game, the Man United game, the fans have been unanimously behind the team. And I think the fans have been incredibly patient this season with how bad it's been, which is why I was really, really disappointed to see Michael Dawson come out. Obviously, club lined, and
I think it's hard for him, Bill.
It is hard for him.
He's a paid employee of the club.
Yeah,
it is a tricky one, and but I have total faith in our fans. They'll get behind the team on Thursday because it's such a big game. A lot of fans have been saying all season we want to win the Europa League. If we win that game, which we should do, let's make no mistake about it, even with a half-fit team, we should be beating Elfsborg at home. I think the fans will get behind the team. And my overall view on the whole thing is the fans have the right to express themselves in whatever way they want, because, let's make no mistake about it. Daniel Levy, the players, it's the fans, the ones that are suffering. So whatever they choose to do, that's what they choose to do.
Well, as Josh says to you here, Bill, that community note on the Dawson video is quite interesting again. I mean, you have to remind, again, we'll make that point as you will say, Bill, he's an employee of the club, therefore I presume his hands are fairly tied about what he can and can't say.
And he was my idol growing up, Michael Dawson.
Yeah.
I've actually met him twice, and
he's a top bloke.
I think he's a fantastic ambassador for our club.
Nice guy.
Yeah, lovely bloke.
It was just a shame. It is hard.
He's put in that position where he goes on to obviously mainstream media. What's he going to say? He's an employee of the football club that pay him. I mean, what can the bloke say? I think it's a very difficult position for him to be in. Can he go on there and outwardly criticise the ownership, the same people that he's an ambassador for on the football club? I think it's very, very tricky. Very, very tricky.
And I'm imagining that the club made him do that as well. You know, they're as usual, they're trying to roll someone else out to take the blame rather than take blame themselves. So I do have sympathy with them in that respect.
Yeah,
a bit like Pedro Porro's interview with Alistair, which is like, oh, what are you talking about? The training's not hard. I find it a doddle. You know, that just smells of company line, unfortunately. But it's the way it is. This isn't North Korea, but he's good at the PR at blocking out anything that's any sort of dissent.
Well, I mean, look, on the point of Elfsborg, we're going to close it with you, Jay, if you don't mind. We've got a few comments actually coming in here. Alexander says they have the Swedish equivalent of Hertzler in Oscar Hilmark as their manager, who's a 32-year-old with immense tactical awareness. Jerome says here, let's not get it twisted. Elfsborg are a decent team. It'll be a very difficult game, but then it is one day of training and away to Brentford. Ridiculous fixtures. And again, we know that point just to be very, very clear. I wouldn't say, look, Elfsborg are on the greatest run of form. They're not a great footballing team, let's be honest about it. It was, I think, when people viewed the group when it first came out, this was probably what Benny would say is the winnable game and was probably seen as the home banker. That home banker has got, like many games out there, looking increasingly harder given our run in terms of our form domestically. Thoughts on it for you, Jay? Thoughts on Elfsborg? Give us a little bit about them. What do you make of them?
Well, listen, look, at home, playing on that artificial pitch, they've been very difficult to beat. You know, they've beaten Roma, they've beaten Nice, and they beat Karabag. But away from home, they've done okay. You know, they lost 3-2 to AZ Alkmaar, and only lost to a late penalty to Troy Parrott. And they had a red card and had 10 men. And they managed to score and do something that we couldn't do. That score 3 goals away at Galatasaray. So, you know, they work hard. They're industrious, you know, quite dynamic. But as you say, you know, they lost a lot of their players. They finished 7th this season. Carrot bag, yeah. They finished 7th last season. I think they're lying at the moment 20th in the league. So they'll be looking to get a result. A draw will be good for them. And, you know, I don't think we can take them lightly, to be truthful with you.
Yeah.
There's one player, Timothy Uomo, I think his name is, a Kenyan midfielder who's been attracting quite a lot of interest in Europe via these games. Obviously not playing in the Swedish league, but his performances in the Europa. They've held a very good account of themselves. I mean, let's be serious. They drew with Braga.
Yep.
You know, and they've beaten Roma. I have to put a caveat to that. That was at home on the pitch, on that pitch. But they've managed to score 3 goals away at Galatasaray, 2 goals away at AZ Alkmaar. So I wouldn't say they're not capable of scoring. And with our defence, anything's possible. I'd like to think we have too much for them. I would think that they will shut up shop, work hard, and try to catch us on the counter attack. I think, you know, if you've this coach, as we said before, Oscar Hilmark, 32, talented, and he's done a very good job. I mean, I think they're well above where they were expected to be in that league. When you look, was it 36 teams in that league?
Yes, I believe 36.
There's 16 teams below them. I think they performed fantastically. So what looked like a walk in the park at the beginning of the draw might be a little bit harder now because they've got something to play for. I think they've got 6. Was it 26? Is it first 26 places? Trying to remember now.
I mean, that qualifies stage. I mean, I know the draw is on Sunday. Yeah. So obviously Spurs want to be in a position where they have fully qualified and giving themselves a little bit of breathing space. Back on Bill's point there, you want to get to February where you can hopefully just have the one game a week for those 3 weeks to give us a little bit of breathing space to get players back. But it just feels at the moment, as soon as we get one back, one drops down, and I've never known anything like this as a fan. Never known anything like this as a fan. I've got to say, it's been a phenomenal show. We've had over nearly 8,000 of you watching us live. What can I say? Thank you so much for all incredible support for the show. Can I just say, make sure you go and, I think Johnny has got this football link with Sean, bless him, when Sean's back on his feet. Please make sure you're checking that out. Please also go and check out the wonderful George Achillea across the socials. Johnny over on the Instagram. Billie T. Billy's got everyone follows Billy anyway, but everyone go follow Billy for more on X. This is a time now, I've got to say, where if you do need someone to go to for therapy, come to Last Word On Spurs and then go to Bill on X. That's pretty much the best place to be. And check out what George can put out there for content. And Johnny, who always gives you those raw post-match reactions where poor Johnny just looks...
I'd just like to say, guys, because Ricky never asks, not for you guys who listen on audio, but for you guys out there on YouTube, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, help drive the channel higher, make those comments, get that algorithm going, and get Ricky up even more.
Bless your heart. Bless you.
Higher up in the ratings. He
Bless
deserves
you.
it. And once again, just to say, big up to Billy and Jay, a change for Tottenham. That, you know, this show has given, and Ricky has given a platform, and he should be, you know, applauded for doing it and backing the campaign. So I thank you.
And it's not about the work that we're doing; it's about the fans coming together. You know, we're just trying to provide a platform for people coming together. So really appreciate the shout out there. And like I say, all we want to do is unite the fan base and hopefully inspire change.
Yeah, 100%. And I think just to echo those points that you've said there, I think, look, at the end of the day, we are all Tottenham, and being blessed to be as we are as one of the most leading Tottenham podcasts out there, I think it would feel wrong to not at this point want to encourage people and entice people to try and help evoke a form of change that is going to see us get our Tottenham back in the way that we all feel we should be, competing, challenging, and being ambitious. And I think that word ambition, I don't think I've used that a long time on here in a positive way. And that is what I think is really upsetting for a lot, Bill, that word ambition hasn't been used in a long time in a positive way, right?
Yeah, and make no mistake about it, this is the period now where we've got to do it. We've got to come together. We've had fans message us from all around the world saying, how can we get involved? We've had fans messaging from Australia, from America, saying, what can we do? You know, the fan base worldwide want this change. And this is it now. Let's put up or shut up. And we're going to put up. Yep. So we hope you join us on the journey.
Bill, thank you so much. Bless you. Look, we're going to leave it on that point there. Look, from the wonderful Billie T, from the superb George Achillea, from the ever-inspiring Jonny H, who gave you that tactical breakdown of Elfsborg. God, we're going to lose him to full Monday Night Football soon, I'm sure. What am I going to do? How are we going to survive? I don't know. Like, subscribe, comment below to everybody out there. Listen, we have been the Last Word On Spurs. Please keep safe, keep well. And as always, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you